did we say?
Be quiet for a second.
I think we need to center a little bit that sign, the sign at the back.
Okay, Jen. Hello, my fellow Arizonans. This is Ken Miceli, and I am running to be governor for the state, this great state of Arizona. And today is our first podcast. We're very excited. And the name of the podcast is Shaping Arizona. It's on every week, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. And now I would like to introduce, I'm very excited, like to introduce our panel of Republican guests. First, I'd like to start out with Eddie Zuniga. Eddie is a state representative of Arizona, and he also represents Luca. Next, we have John Losum. John is an a Grammy-winning award winner for audio, for engineering, and producer. So glad to have John. And we also have Michael Gray. Michael is a strong Republican, very knowledgeable. Enough said. So let's get into it. Let's first start with the topic. The topic today is the immigration. We'll hold that off for a minute, but it is. Whoop, sorry about that. I'm almost falling off the stage right now. The topic today is immigration. Not only that, but we want to talk about integrity, election integrity. Let's start by saying election integrity is not a partisan issue. Election integrity is the foundation of our republic. And with that said, let's start in with John. If I start with you, and we can all chime in. And with that being said, John Losum. John, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Ken. Thank you so much for allowing me in on your little talk here. Election integrity. I am just amazed that I hear people talking on some of the news media. I won't say who, but they're saying that people who vote in America for people who are going to be, they're hiring those people for office. So they're sort of like employees in a company hiring someone in that company. But they're saying that, well, you don't have to be an American citizen. And, oh, yeah, you could be, but no ID is required. And that, to me, was a very strange concept. And to me, the American value of placing a vote is really tied to the value of you as an American citizen, because there's a value, in my opinion, of being an American citizen. And one of the things you get to do living in this country, paying taxes, working, and trying to abide by the laws presented from the government, both federal and state, is that you are going to be able to vote and have a voice with who you elect as leadership. Which is one of the reasons I'm here. I believe highly that Ken is a great candidate for governor. He's going to do a great job. I've had the privilege of seeing some of his ideas, and I think they're fresh, they're exciting, and they're great, common sense, smart solutions to some of the issues facing everybody in this country, citizens and non-citizens. And we'll get to more of that in the immigration discussion. But I just think it's so vital that, well, if you want to fly on an airplane, you have to present ID. And, they had the real ID, which everybody had to get. And now recently they implemented, if you don't have real ID, you have to pay a fee. And that fee is for the services that they're going to provide in verifying your identity. But in doing so, they're vetting you before you get on an airplane. So a lot of things you do today require identification. And at the voting booth, I think it's just, the number one thing that should be just commonplace, that When I go to vote,
Yes.
I want to present my citizenship and my identification because I'm proud of that, and that's why I go there with that intention, and I feel valuable because I present that. But if there's 5 other people there that don't have to do that, it takes value away from me as a United States citizen. And that, to me, is a bipartisan issue. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It's just right and wrong. It's simple right and wrong. So thank you for bringing that up this evening. Appreciate that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And thank you for that response. Michael, what is your view? I know that you're very interested in this subject, election integrity. What is your view for the next upcoming election in November?
I think accountability is so very important, and I think that people who are going to walk in with their vote and knowing that when they walk in and they register their vote, and the people that are around them are not accountable, and the system is not accountable for what they're going to do, is going to create chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we don't have truth, and that's what voter integrity creates, it creates truth. Then we do have chaos.
Yes, of course. And it's just not here, it's everywhere.
Yes.
What is the solution to that?
Yeah, I mean, voter, having an ID. I mean, I have an ID. I have a driver's license. When I'm pulled over, I'm accountable for the mistake I made, and that is registered. So why wouldn't, when I vote, I be accountable through the ID that I have to vote? So I'm not voting 2 times. I'm not a person who is deceased who is voting. Or people, doing other things that they do to, swing the vote.
Yes, I agree. Well said. Eddie, how are you doing tonight? And so glad that you're here. Let's hear your version of that. Election immigration.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Ken, to have us tonight over here, and it's important to know that we have to have the peace on our heart that everything that we are putting on the table to do the vote for the candidate that specifically we want to vote for, it'll be accountable and transparent. Because this is one of the things. It's not only for U.S. but for the entire America, where we are as an example for those small nations that we are doing everything with integrity, right?
Yes.
That's why we, as a state director with Luca, it's important to pass on that information to the public that we are doing the right thing in order to have transparency. And because many of we lose the option to have better solutions into the state when we have the right candidate. But when it's a fraud between the votes, we don't have no more confidence into it. And now we have to get involved and see and check and inspect that everything at the election department is correct. And they do the right thing to test and verify that vote is making just one time. And not only make a confusion between, one party and another, right? Last time we were at the election department, and I was confident to see that when they are on the table counting the votes, it's just one Republican and one Democrat checking on into it. So we want to make sure that continues happening in order to have transparency into the elections.
And transparency is so important. John, you could probably elaborate on that. I mean, you've been very involved with the Republican cast for very many years.
Yeah, proudly so. Yeah.
That's good.
So, with regard to this, I think it's a common denominator amongst American citizens that if anybody really thinks about it, the only reason why anyone would want non-citizens to vote is because it's an ill intent. That's the only reason. There's a value in being an American citizen. That's why my father came through Ellis Island many years ago and took the route of becoming an American citizen. And my mother's parents came through from Italy through Ellis Island many years ago.
Very good.
And I am privileged enough to be born here and to be an American citizen, but I also follow the rules and I'm documented. I have documentation to show I'm an American citizen. I'm on the books, I'm in the system. People, I'm known. But why would someone want to? It's like a counterfeit dollar bill. If you go pay someone with citizenship, it's a real dollar bill. If you pay them and vote and you're not a U.S. citizen, or you're using the identity of someone deceased, or you're doing multiple votes with different names and different versions of those names, it's a counterfeit vote. It's not an authentic vote. And that's, in my interpretation, that's the way everyone in America should see it. Even people who are non-citizens, to motivate them to become citizens, to have a voice, isn't it better to enforce to them that if you want to vote, you have to be a citizen?
Yes.
Isn't it, doesn't it put more value for them on becoming a citizen? And don't we as leaders and people and just citizens, don't we want our neighbors to be citizens too, regardless of where they came from? Yes, they're welcome here, but they have to follow the system. And that's a system, I think, as the forefront, because if they can't place a vote, that devalues, them coming in with counterfeit. If they can place a vote, then counterfeit money is good in America. That's the way I see it. So we don't want counterfeit voting. We want authenticity. So I believe it's a really good place to start.
Excellent, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. How would you repair the system?
Well, again, like I think I think we make the mistake, like they think that it's a privilege, right?
Sure.
Or I'm sorry, they think it's a right and not a privilege, right? So it's a privilege of ours to be able to vote. It's our
Privilege.
It's our privilege because we've done things the right way. And I think it's really important that people value that.
Yes.
As John just mentioned. I think it's very important because it has less value being a citizen, and to the rest of the world and this great nation that we are has less value if that happens, and it delegitimizes our system and the great nation that we are.
That's absolutely correct. Eddie, how do you look at the current, or I should say, the next generation, the next election? How do you think that we can fine tune that election?
Well, one of the things is that if we have any relator that pass away, because it happens in the past that even that people was voting, which is illegal. That if you have any related that pass away in your family, make sure that you report to the authorities that person passed away.
Good.
In order to avoid fraud into it, because it happens. The testimony is alive with one of the person that I was during 24 elections, and she told me that her husband passed away in 2013 and 2020. He voted, and she said, "How come that happened?" And to where they vote, right? I don't want to say it, but you can imagine how. And that's one of the recommendations, to report if something happened with your relatives. Please report it to the authorities.
Good. Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Is there any further discussion on election integrity? Nothing? Okay. Well, let's move on to another topic.
Okay.
Let's take a look at trade schools in the all-new cyber division, social cyber division, which really helps out not just today, but our children that are coming up next. So, John, do you have anything on the social cyber division?
Oh, I think it's vital. Recently in the news, we've seen a lot of information about AI producing content that definitely is not kid-friendly, but kids have access to. And I think Elon Musk was in France answering some questions about that for his X platform and his AI engine that he has in that platform.
Okay.
And I think it's vital that we provide safety for our kids, because a lot of things are just way too easily accessible today. And my son is 28 now. He had a phone when he was I guess 10 or 11,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't a smartphone back then, a lot like today. So now children have phones, and, some parents oversee that when they're young,
Sure.
and they don't provide them with a phone that can access all
Yes.
those apps. But, I think if I understand your idea about social, cyber agencies, right, to oversee that part of, in Arizona at least, of what's being exposed to children today. Yeah.
Yes, and to add on to that, we can track what they're really doing and what type of discussions they're having, so that they're not engaging in any type of negative situations. And I think our kids are the greatest thing ever. They're the most protected item that we want. And I think in addition to that, we're also going to segue into the the trades schools that we want to open up and really expand. Can you tell me about the trade schools and what your thoughts are there?
Well, when I retired from the music industry, I went into education, and I taught. I was a director at a university for 4 years, and I was in charge of this program, and it was a degree program for recording arts. And I'll use that as an example because
Sure.
I can speak to that. So, the education, oftentimes in these university programs, in my view and in my experience, includes a lot of academia, a lot of things that aren't necessarily related to the craft itself, because
Okay.
the technical craft is the technical craft. In fact, out of a 13-month program, only 2 months of that 13 months was allocated to the craft. So trade schools today, in my views, they'll be anywhere from 3 to 6 months on a fast track. And I think it's vital that we help that to grow, because there's a lot of people who are talking about affordability, but if they had a job at $40 or $50 an hour, well, that problem would be solved, right? But, the barrier to entry into the workforce through trade schools is a lot lower. It's a lot easier than going to a 4-year college and then going out and starting from zero and trying to get a job, right?
Sure.
Or interning for 2 or 3 years for free, essentially. So I really encourage you, Ken, to talk more about this trade school initiative. That your idea is great, because it solves so many problems. And plumbers, HVAC technicians, even landscapers, who can go out there and learn a craft and then develop that craft into a career, and then even pass it on. I think Michael was talking about that earlier. So yeah, I'm really encouraged about that.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Michael, trade schools. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think, as it relates to AI and cyber and everything, I think with great technology comes great responsibility.
Sure.
And I really believe that, we need a system, a educational system around that really trains our people up as quickly as possible, our kids. And they need to be, it needs to be a very, extensive program. So it cannot just be, a few classes here and there. It has to be an opportunity to really to absorb the information. You have to really do real-time experience, right? So
Sure.
get involved with companies that are here in Arizona and all over the country. Trade schools can do that, right? They're able to be a lot more flexible in terms of the way that their students interact with, companies and, business people and entrepreneurs. They become little entrepreneurs in a sense, right? So I think it's really important that the trade schools, embrace the future. And I'm a huge proponent of trade schools. Being an artist myself, I really value the artistic thought and process that people can be creative and come up with creative solutions, right? And as a tradesman, that's what you do often. And so now this is a whole new level of artist. This is now an artist that needs to again, be responsible about what they're developing
Right.
and understand that, this all is changing
Sure.
and we need to embrace that change.
Excellent. Very well said. And as far as the social cyber division, looking after our kids, what's your thoughts there? Where we really want to encourage this division to be on the lookout to save our kids and to watch out for our kids for dangerous influences.
Yes, I mean, with AI being what it is, it can trick our children very rapidly. My kids are grown now,
Sure.
but I'm going to have my first grandkid coming up, and I am concerned about how open that communication is through social media, through the phone, and so we have to have people that understand that that's going to happen, and we have to build systems to make sure that there's checks and balances for those opportunities for people to get into our kids' lives where we don't want them.
Sure. Excellent. Very good. Eddie, well, I know you have a lot to say about trade schools.
Well, this is it's something that we really have to put attention on because it's depend the future for for this nation and we can see it right now how they was brainwashed
Sure.
and now we can see them doing some awful activism and breaking businesses and all that because they've been brainwashed by the previous administration, right?
Yes.
And now we are facing all those consequences about what's happening right now. So we really want to focus on our kids
Okay.
and to have better education,
Mm-hmm.
to have better tools in order to avoid all those access to the awful applications and websites that are really dark mailing our kids, right? And of course making sure that I have my kids on the right school, because other than that, we are facing a huge consequences, and we see what happens right now, right? And
Excellent. Yes.
yes,
Well, we're seeing it happen right in front of us. So-
right in front of us, and if we can do it through prayers and having the right candidate to fought for the right reason, and especially for the fundamentals with the schools, and I think we are heading to the right direction, getting the right education, and the other thing is not letting the AI interfere with their education, right?
Mhm.
And the other thing is AI is very powerful tool
Yes.
when we are using it for the positive
Good.
reason, but it can be a very destructive tool at the same time if we don't know how to use it. So it's basically education is one of the main things.
Excellent. Anything to add on to trade shows or trade schools?
I think it's more that the parents has to know that you and do the right research, what kind of trade school is where we are
And where they're
getting
gonna
our
fit
kids,
in.
right,
Yeah.
and where we are fitting, what type of program we have into the trade school, right,
Okay.
and a longer aligns with our principles.
Mhm.
I think we are okay.
Good. Excellent. Very good. John, anything else on trade schools?
I was thinking as everyone was talking, I mean, learning a real trade, going out in the field and working. I think the sensible approach is what we used to call apprenticeship, where you get the foundations for several weeks or months, and you focus and you do a full-time education program. You learn some of the hands-on, but then you go out and you work as an apprentice. And in a lot of trades, they will pay you to be an apprentice, where you don't actually sit in the seat and do the job, but you're there shadowing someone with experience. And I think the apprenticeship approach that used to be more commonplace, I think is very, very important. And I think educating people in AI, Right now my son's going for a master's in data language programming, and it's related to AI, to building apps and so on and so forth. And I'm launching an AI company, and our intention is to offer AI as a value add to people, as a value add, not to replace people, but to make companies, give them tools to be more efficient, earn more revenue, have a further reach, so on and so forth, and have it be easy for them to utilize, but not use the human element. But as far as AI and trade school and education, I see AI being an advantage in education, being an educator for so long. AI is just, if it's used properly in balance, and kept in its place, so to speak. I would love to see more high school programs offer technical courses. When I went to high school, they offered shop and they offered cooking for the girls, and it was a little thing. But today, if they could offer some more specific courses, real application-based courses in finance and in some kind of trade, or at least foundational stuff, because it gives people the ability to then get some momentum to go out and maybe go to a school for 3 or 6 months and then go into the apprentice, and within a year they'd be earning a good living.
Excellent point. And if you go through the AI training,
Right.
Cybersecurity, which is up and coming,
Right.
all of those are great benefits to our people, our young kids coming in, going, I really don't want to sit in a classroom for 4 years, but I'm more willing to go to and learn something about automotive or something about repair of HVAC. So these are all the things that will stimulate not only our economy, but the way our thinking for our younger generation. So, Eddie, you're well entrenched into this community. Very impressed with your resume. What do you think about the age bracket right now? I mean, when I was 18 years old, I wanted to work, and today's environment, they'll either go to school or they'll stay at home in the basement. So, what can we do to motivate our younger generation right now?
Yeah, first of all, the young generation, they don't like to spend a lot of time in school. And of course, cybersecurity is a high pay, and it's very popular right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the best way that they can have more freedom and spend more time with the family, because they don't have to go to school like,
Sure.
10 hours and be there for years, right? Let's say you're going to get a doctorate degree, you had to be like 7-8 years in school, and by the end of the day, that you're so old and you don't want to continue doing that career, right? Now is more open doors with AI. We can learn more things. Of course, what John said is like with balance, right? And I think it's great to inject more into it.
Good.
And I know we have a high demand for HVAC here in Arizona because the heat, and you can see all the vehicles running around, because like we are an emergency, the AC run out, but it's a lot of demand here in Arizona, and I think it's very helpful to learn something that is not going to take you, decades to study, right? And I think we have to have that a lot of balance, and it's a good opportunity to have those tools, in handy.
Yes, and I want to expand trades to a point where it's in universities, in colleges, to where they'll accept that as a credit at times. So that was a good discussion. Anything else on trade schools or social cyber division?
Yeah, I was going to just say that, what I love about trade schools is the focus, right?
Mhm.
So I was an artist. I went to art school to learn the arts, right? I graduated with a BFA, so I wasted, in my opinion, a lot of time in college doing classes that didn't necessarily align with what I was doing,
Sure.
right? So trade is very intentional. And if you're going to move into the cybersecurity world and that's going to be your focus, like a lot of people have said today, it gives you an opportunity to quickly be an intern in a company where you're really doing real time what you really want to do, right? So that you're
Right.
actually moving towards a career and not just trying to figure it out, which a lot of people
Yes.
do in college, in my opinion. Not a
Yes.
big fan of college, but
Yeah.
you know, for that
And
reason.
an intern, as John said, you could make money on that.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great starter.
Yeah.
You know, a number of my friends that are doctors or attorneys, they're still trying to bail themselves out of the cost of the schooling. You go into the trade environment and you're out making money. You know, even if you do shadow somebody, they're willing to pay you.
Yeah, you do make money. Yeah. For most professions. Of course, I can't speak to all of them specifically. Yeah, my son went to a 4-year college and he went back to school now, but he's been working.
Oh, good.
But I have 2 lawyers in my family, and I watched them go into incredible debt. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's 40 years later, maybe they're digging out now. I don't know. But there's nothing wrong with going to a 4-year college or getting degrees, right?
Yeah.
For some people, that's the fit. But for those who decide I can't or won't go to college, or not even a community college for a few years, as an alternative, there is a path, you know, a faster, more effective path. And what you said is so important, because when I taught the degree program, 10 months of their 13 months or 11 months had nothing to do with the craft, and they never really learn the actual craft until they go out, and then the next step at that school would have been to intern, most likely for free. And, you know, then they had to hang in there and work and do all that and then shadow somebody. So eventually the apprenticeship idea was necessary for most technical or trades jobs or
Yeah, that's
opportunities.
embedded in the trade school mentality.
Right,
So
right.
like even in art school, because I quickly understood that they didn't really have a computer program for me, I went to a place where it did, and that happened to be my uncle's advertising agency,
Okay.
right? So I was interning, I was getting paid, not a lot, but I was getting paid
Sure.
for what I was doing. So I was valuing what I was doing, and I saw a career path at that point, right? So yeah, not to always badmouth college, because
No, yeah,
I had
but
a
there's
great
nothing
college
wrong with going to
experience.
college, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know,
yeah, it's really
I
about the individual,
Yeah.
but it really needs to make sense.
first of all, I respect and I support whatever my friends that when they go to, you know, college or university, you
Right.
know, I don't have nothing against to it, but that is other, you know, different directions where we can go and make it happen, right? And I suggest the universities gets, you know, less years into the university than they should be, because it's more learn the system than, you know, what you're gonna study for. Let's say you're gonna become a doctor, right? And it's more learn the system than other stuff, but they don't teach you how to be independent. You know, that's one of the things. That's one of the seasons, right?
Right, right.
That's
Absolutely.
excellent. Well, I'd like to move into another topic, which is immigration, reform, and common sense. We are inundated with this subject every day. John, you know it well, and we need a good fix. We have a fix. I have a plan. So, John, I know that you've taken a look at my plan.
I have, yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's fresh, exciting, and I think it's sort of overdue, but I'm very thankful that you're coming out with this, and I support it 100%. And I just look forward to the day where we can implement a system for the immigration in a reformed way, right?
Sure.
In a common sense, smart way. And what I interpret your plan to be, Ken, is to have a system, at least statewide and maybe nationwide, that you've already designed, I understand.
Yes.
And it would give people who are coming to the United States of America and would like to become U.S. citizens and are going through the process, it would give a digital footprint that they could tap into, that ICE could tap into, Homeland Security could tap into, that shows their progress along the way. And for those who have good intentions to come here, to become citizens, to work hard, pay taxes, and yes, go vote when they do, then this system is there's nothing that says it's something that we shouldn't have. There's no reason why we wouldn't have it. And so I'm really excited that because it gives a safe haven
Yes.
for people who are going through the immigration process and who are genuinely looking to become U.S. citizens, whether they're escaping some bad stuff in their own country or they're just looking for a better life. You know, that's the American dream.
Amen.
But the American dream, the first bullet on the list, the first check mark on the list is becoming a U.S. citizen, and that way you have value. And I'm just going to circle back a minute to our prior conversations. Illegal immigration and election integrity are one and the same. And when I saw what was happening in the prior administration over 4 years, I immediately knew, how could you not know, that they were loading up the census in these Democratic states and they were buying votes with our tax dollars. And, you know, it was a while before I heard anybody say it, but I knew it. And I told my wife, and I said, this has got to stop. And of course, it never stopped and it got crazy, but that's the nightmare we have now. But of course, we don't want people, we want to keep that base for voting illegally. Okay, that's all I'll say about it. But election integrity and immigration reform go hand in hand. We want United States citizens to be here legally, to be in the system legally, and yes, to vote when they are a U.S. citizen. It's common sense, it's smart, and thank you for this plan because it really makes it safe for people to come here and not be afraid because they're in a system where at least they have a paper trail or a digital trail, so to speak, of their progress, that they're going through the process of getting themselves acclimated and then naturalized to become a citizen. So I'm really excited about that part of it, and I think it solves so many problems, statewide and, of course, nationwide.
I think so
Yeah.
too. And I think the nation will adopt it. Once we come out with it, you know, we want to get rid of the fear. And by doing this, by having documentation that they can go to, it's going to help the police, it's going to help ICE, it's going to help everyone. And they're going to have a good pathway. I want to take a different pathway. So, Michael, anything on that you would like to contribute?
Yeah, I mean, I think the immigration, your solution for immigration is amazing. I think, you know, we already have an ID. There is already facial recognition. My friend actually developed, you know, biometrics. That's been a part of our ecosystem for a while now. So we are all part of that, right?
Sure.
So why wouldn't we, you know, reward the process and also cheer the people on who are going through the process, and the people that come out on the other side? They should be cheered on. They should be, you know, there should be accolades for what they've done because it's quite a process. But it should be.
Yes.
This country is worth it. It's worth it to come here. That's the reason why people come here.
Right.
Right. So we need to value that. And so what you're putting in place basically ensures through accountability that happens.
I think it's a great plan myself. And day one, when I'm elected governor, it's going to go in effect. So,
Amazing.
Eddie, I know that you're very much into this, and you got a great history and great background. Maybe share a few points, bullet points about what your thoughts are.
Yes, I'm an immigrant, you know. Of course, I born and raised in Guatemala, and then when I was 20, I came to the United States, and I'm so grateful to be citizen in this nation, and I thank God that, you know, I was accepted
Yes.
as a citizen. But you know, it's like Michael said, like if you don't have nothing to hide, let the authorities pass through the screenage, because that's the problem. They want to know if you have a felony.
Right.
If you have a felony, if you come with, you know, bad temper to this nation, you're going to get rid of, right? And not only that, but if you come with bad intentions to rob, to kill, and to destroy this nation, you're going to face the consequences, right?
Yes.
And don't try to, you know, be against the authorities, because you're gonna get punished, and but there is a lot of people that are sparking the fire out there, and using go back to the conversation we have with AI. They are using AI to destroy and create, some type of histories that is not happen, right? So we gotta be very smart to know that it's not an AI that are, try to twisting our minds, and make sure that if you want to become a citizen, you don't have a felony, because other than that, you're gonna get back to your country. That's the thing. And of course, I see in some point that if you are illegal in this nation and you probably have any appointment with ICE or whatever, and you try to avoid, is worse when you escape out of the authorities, and then now you are escaping from the law, and if they find you, they're gonna get you in jail, and you're gonna get deported. So, and I hope all these people that are coming with good intentions, they pass to the screen and they're gonna be legal, and one day, they do the right thing, like you said, John. They're gonna become a citizens, right? But if you don't walk on the right foot here, you're gonna get rid of. It's that simple.
Yeah, and to support your statement, I think that they want to be uh, going through the guidelines. They want to be successful. These are people that are coming in here because they heard about the greatest place in the nation to live, and so they want to do the right things. However, the federal government has really cracked down and has arrested a number of people. But if you sign up for this program, they will respect you. The police, ICE will, and there's not going to be any problems. You're going to be on your way if you're stopped. So, with that, John, I mean, does that make sense? I mean, we have a
Oh
program.
yeah, it makes sense. It makes absolute sense. Yeah.
Okay.
When I first saw it, it was like, click. Why? Okay, it's long past due. We have to do this now. But I was thinking while you were talking, Eddie. We have people who came to the country and they have no footprint in this country. Nobody knows who they are. There's no documentation on them. A lot of them, they threw their driver's licenses away before they came here. I saw on the news this morning a blip from last year where this was happening. So it gives them free reign to break the laws, where they don't really have to worry about their fingerprints or their DNA, right? So if they get into a system, it's going to make Americans safer. It's going to make children safer from some of the people who really, really are in a place where they want to do harm. And to them, they just give themselves free license to do it. So accountability, but it also gives them a pathway, and it gives them some safety, knowing that they're going through the process. We can't make it any easier for people to come here and become citizens, just like you went to any other country. I couldn't go to England right now and stay there for 2, 3, 5 years and get benefits from the government based on those people's tax dollars. And the government's not going to buy me cars and apartments and give me $2,000 Visa cards and cell phones and then pay me more money if I have 5 or 6 kids. It's just ridiculous when you say that, right? When you think about it. I'll have to go there, and if I want to become a citizen or be a dual citizenship, I'll have to go through a process. By the same token, that's what we need to do here. And this whole thing stems down to buying votes. We know that. And we know that every election, the fraud is rampant. We know that. And so election integrity and immigration, I'll say again, go hand in hand. But I really think that the system that Ken's come up with is really going to provide two things. It'll provide accountability on the American side, and then it'll provide some safety and some organization in the midst of all the chaos now on the side of people who want to come here and have good intentions and want to become an American citizen because they value it.
Excellent. And speaking of fraud, abuse, and waste, we have a We have a show prepared for that.
Okay. Good.
And I think the concept you're going to really like. We will have more on that at our next feature. So, with that, let me just back up with Eddie for a minute, because he's very passionate about the immigration laws, and the procedure to get through in a positive way is not that difficult. I mean, if you follow the guidelines, you can get through. And once, like you said, once you're in, you don't have to worry. The fear is gone. So that's what we're trying to do.
Maria Salazar came with something really, really good just 5 months ago, supporting those people that are here working for a long time, and they are ghost, and they're working hard, they pay taxes, and now they need an opportunity to have any sort of permit in order to be in a legal way here. And if we come with some type of balance, of course, we are against the illegal immigration, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to align with the law, right? And of course, we cannot be in politics if we don't align with the law, right? But the same opportunity I have, anybody can have that opportunity, because at the end of the day, this is the country of immigration, but everything has to pass through the screen, right? In order to know who's my neighbor, right? Who it's some felon, a citizen or illegal immigrant that are next to my door. I don't know. I have grandkids. I have my daughter, and I don't want anything bad happen to them, right? So if you're a family member, you want the right thing for your family, right? That's why we are here on this table tonight.
That's correct. That's correct. Well, gentlemen, that was a great discussion. Anything else that you would like to bring up personally, Michael, that I know you're an artist.
Yeah.
And you've got that flair to you where, you like different things, and you're starting a number of companies, I guess. And maybe you can expand on that a little bit, on how we can improve our system with your companies.
Yeah, so I'm a big proponent of connection. I think your network is your net worth, and so I think that's something that's very valuable that we need to learn and we need to teach our kids. As I said, when I was in college, I was able to do things that were outside of college. I did different businesses and different things. So by doing that, I was actually practicing what was being preached to me, and I was able to really get a lot of value out of it, right? Where other people, did not, because they did not actually exercise their intent.
Okay.
And I think that's, what we're talking about here when we talk about immigration and your plan. It's validating the intent of the person that's coming in, right? So if we can validate their intent along the way, then we know that they're going to be good and that we're going to be safe. And that's the most important thing. We are a country of immigrants, and Eddie and I are both mutts. We come from many, many different countries, right? And that's to be celebrated. As a kid, we would celebrate that, the fact that we are, true immigrants, right?
Yeah.
As you mentioned, John, right? Yeah. And a lot of us came through Ellis Island, right? And we took that process. We followed that process, right? Or our ancestors followed that process. And so I think, when you're talking about immigration, it's all about the intent, right? Their intention is to come and to do harm.
Yes.
And if we allow people to come and to do harm to us, that's insanity. That's not, anything but insane, right? Nobody in their right mind would want that to happen, right? And as a result of that, fentanyl and child trafficking, two areas that I'm very passionate about. We're actually doing an event called the Pickleball coming up, and it's the fight against fentanyl. It's fun. We play pickleball with athletes and all sorts of stuff, right? And families and kids. But we want to get information out there about how bad. I mean, unfortunately, everybody at this table probably has a story about a loved one or a friend that died of fentanyl, and that's because people with bad intentions came across the border with things that were meant to kill us.
Yes.
And so we need to figure out what's going on there, and your system will allow us to do that. And then on the good side of all this, which everyone talks about all the time, how, you know, people are being dragged out of their cars and all this kind of stuff. There's no need for that, because now we know their intentions are good. This person is good. We have their information,
Right.
and we'll leave them alone. Right?
Exactly.
Isn't that what everybody wants? Everybody wants lack of chaos. They don't want chaos.
And
Thank
just to add on, it's not about color, it's not about black, white, Latino, or whatever. If someone come to this country with bad intentions or be a terrorist,
Yes.
you're gonna get caught, and we're gonna
Yes.
find out.
Yes.
It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Yes.
That's the intent of my plan. John, with your AI background, how do you think that could help immigration at this point?
Oh, that's a good question, and I'm not sure I have a good answer. But AI integration and autonomous agents have become more of our regular world, right? So the screening process itself, if it was designed with AI in mind, with some autonomous agents,
Sure.
and it wasn't just input equals output, it was some thinking process by the app, by the digital, the soulless person, as you put it, Michael. I think it just could provide more efficiency and sort of streamline things a little bit better and help organize things. You know, AI is something that I think we were talking before. It's like a plastic apple on the table. You know, it looks nice, but I can't bite it. So have it be there and use it, but don't depend on it 100%. But I think when you're talking about the kind of numbers that we're talking about here, millions and millions of people, because they have deported a lot of people, but there's so many people left. And I believe a good portion of those people have good intentions and would like to become U.S. citizens.
Absolutely.
And Ken mentions fear. And, we certainly want to alleviate the fear for those with good intentions. And I think your system will help to separate those who mean well and who don't mean well, period. Because it'll give them an opportunity, there won't be so much gray area. Like, is this person on this side or that side? No, they have good intentions. So I think AI can be developed and integrated into more specific functionality for the system that you're building. So I mean, that's my only answer at this point.
That's a great answer, and
yeah.
thank you for that. And thank you for participating this evening. What a great panel, and thank you out there for looking in. We are so excited to bring you new subjects next week. We will be on at every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Let me say it again. You're more than welcome to vote kenmiceli.com or even contribute to our campaign, votekenmiceli.com. So thank you for tuning in. Gentlemen, it's been good. I can't wait to have you back. So have a good evening, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you.